Hello again, and welcome to MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thanks for joining us. We have a great show. We have an in-depth interview with co-owner of the Houston SaberCats, Marty Power. We have John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning with all things MLR. So let's get to it. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Let's get started with Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick. John calling it from Washington, D.C. John, how are you? What do you got for us?
Matt, let's play a word association game. I'm going to say a name. You got to tell me the first thing that pops into your mind.
Okay.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Great movie. Alec Baldwin stole it in one scene. But it's this is rugby. I'm gonna say always be closing is ABC. And because U.S. just beat Canada, and we've been saying always beat Canada, is that it?
Ding, ding, ding. Matt, that is correct. Kudos, USA Men's Eagles, for beating Canada in L.A. Matt, yes, of course, you had to beat Canada, right? It was a must-win game. Is that too crazy to say?
No, I don't think there's a must-win games. I think they're games that you should be blooding all these young players, because we're talking about 27 and 31 World Cups, right? These games mean nothing. Play as many young guys as you can. Next.
Well, you bring up a real good point, because there were two caps handed out, Sean McNulty and Pono Davis. They're not young, as you said, but yeah, right. The Pacific Nations Cup this year, the qualification for the 2027 Rugby World Cup will be next year. Why not get a few more young players out there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you do have the pressure, some pressure. It's not from us to win these games, unless I guess you're playing Canada. So you got to beat Canada, right? But and kudos to Sean for getting his cap, playing hooker. He's been around the block. I mean, he's not a kid. He's an Irishman that's qualified now for the USA. So again, I would say in the backfield specifically, let's get young talent in there, young talent in there, and let them fail or blossom or bloom or whatever. Next.
Well, then you stay in the back line. What position specifically? Because I got to say, Luke Harty, I thought, played particularly well.
All right.
It's probably his best game in the men's Eagles jersey.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but again, and I'm not taking away from Luke, who came on and played very well for the Chicago Hounds after he was put back in the lineup. We got to develop these young players at the key positions. We need scrum halves and fly halves to play in 27 and 20 and 31. And to do that, they just let them fail. Let them fail or prosper. Next. Well,
Rand Santos, USA U20, Cal Berkeley, fly half. He was on the non-traveling reserve. Eric Storty, the number 1 overall pick for Anthem and MLR. He was on the non-traveling reserve. So there are definitely those players on there. Don Bezak, of course, was on the match day 23. He came on in the 63rd or 64th minute. So there are some of these young guys. Will we see them against Japan on Saturday, given that they don't need to win this game because they've already qualified for the semifinals? Why not throw them out there?
Well, you don't want to get run out of the park. It's a tough trip. It's a long flight, and it's the time difference. It's a very challenging trip, specifically in the short time that the Eagles are going to be there. I think they're going to Kumayaga, which I've been to. It's a great stadium. Home field, hometown, well-rested players. I think Japan wins this one, but I think you got to play them tough. Next.
All right, hey, let's move on to some Major League Rugby news. The defending champions, New England Free Jacks, they've finalized their 2025 coaching staff, rounding it out by bringing back assistant coach Pam Simone. He oversees the team's defense. Matt, early season here, let's go for it. Will the New England Free Jacks three-peat? Shout out Pat Riley.
The historical odds are against them, but they always defy the odds, the Free Jacks. They always win games that they're not supposed to win on, road, go to LA, wherever, and they win games, right? So that's tough. It's tough. Heavy the crown. You saw them this year. Everybody played them tight, right? The Old Glory DC could have been 3-0 against them. It's tough, but all they do is defy. So I would not rule that out. Next.
Last bit here, Matt. Why not here? Wildly speculative, unsubstantiated rumor mill right here.
Oh, boy.
Last week, if you missed the Glorious Rugby podcast that I co-host with Alistair Kirschpool, it's an old Glory DC fan podcast, we talked with head coach Simon Cross, just wrapping up the season. He shared that there was going to be a big player signing happening. So, hey, let's do it right now. Matt, I'm going to pin it on you. Who is this big player that old Glory DC is going to sign?
Antoine Dupont. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No, that ain't going to happen.
No. What are you guys throwing around? I know you got your little ideas.
I'm going to throw a couple names out there. You let me know if this makes sense or not.
Yeah.
Australian Michael Hooper.
No.
Okay. Staying down there. New Zealand All Black great. Richie McCaw.
Yeah, probably Richie McCaw coming out of retirement. Yes. What else?
Here's another one out of over the pond. What about USA Eagle fly half AJ McGinty?
Highly unlikely. I know he's in his walk year. You've told me this off camera, but he's going to get another contract extension. He's a very, very, very highly skilled player. He's still young enough to play a couple, 3 more years easily. The thing about his injuries over his career is that was time away from playing. So he doesn't have all that mileage as his age would indicate. So he still has something left in the tank. He's going to get a bigger contract. We can't compete with those salaries. Next.
Okay. But you're a capologist. Put on your capologist hat here for a second. If you're old Glory DC and you want to get around these MLR salary cap rules, how do you make it work and bring McGinty on the club?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, there's no cap on coaching, so you can make him a player coach and give him the moon, Mary. Anything else, John?
No, Matt, that is it. That is the end of just wildly speculative, unsubstantiated rumor mill here.
Clickbait.
Yes, clickbait.
Okay. All right. Clickbait. We'll call it what it is. But it's fun to speculate, right? It's fun to imagine and not just stare at the phone and the computer all day, right, folks? Use your brains. Use your imaginations. On that note, thank you to John Fitzpatrick. We'll be right back with Marty Power, owner of the Houston SaberCats, after these messages.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we are back, and we have the pleasure of welcoming in Mr. Marty Power of the Houston SaberCats. Marty, welcome to MLR Weekly.
Happy morning to you, too, in New York City or wherever the hell you are.
Marty, people wanted to get to know you a little bit, see who you are. You know, there's the thing about the MLR is that the owners are actually approachable. Stunning revelation, right? And it's a good thing. So just some background. Let me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a Massachusetts guy. You ended up at Houston because of ballet. You met Mike Loya, your co-owner, playing for the Baylor Strikers after you played college football in Massachusetts at Nichols. You ended up playing rugby because guys in a bar wanted you to be a bouncer, and that didn't work out for you. So you said no. And they said, how about rugby practice? You said, yeah. And that's basically how that started. But you ended up with the Baylor Strikers playing loose head prop and inside center. Is this all accurate so far?
It's very accurate. That's very accurate. Yes, definitely.
So,
and I got to tell you, my ballet career continues because my wife is the executive director of the Philadelphia Ballet. So I commute between Philadelphia and Houston. So,
okay. All right. So yeah. So the ballet part of that, which we have to touch upon.
Yes.
Is not part of your repertoire training as a loose head prop transitioning to inside center. It was more because of the wife.
Yes, and it's a learned behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So would you be able to demonstrate some moves for us
Oh,
sometime?
absolutely. I could do first position, second position, any position you want. Yes.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
I'd like a position with your company. Can we
I gotta tell you the similarities between ballet and rugby, particularly my wife ran the Houston Ballet Academy for many years, and the similarities are unbelievable because when they're recruiting people, they have to get visas, they have to get housing for them, they have to figure out what, fly them in, fly them out, they have to train them. It's no different than running a professional rugby team where you're recruiting people overseas. So it's very similar, quite frankly.
Oh, I thought you were going to point out the tight outfits and the high kicks.
Well, that too. Yeah. And the age bracket's the same too, right? We got, I would say the average age of most teams in the MLR are probably 25 years old, and the average age of any ballet company is probably 25.
I want to get to you guys, the Houston SaberCats. Unlike anyone else, you guys built your own stadium, just like that. Wave of a wand and boom. So you were all in from the get-go.
Yes, we have been. And quite frankly, everybody asks, well, where'd you borrow the money from? And we said, no, we can't borrow money on an asset like that. So we cashed up the whole thing.
Wow.
So we have a very, very committed ownership group from day one. And, some of our ownership group wanted to build a 10,000 seat stadium with, a clubhouse and but that was going to cost $30 million. So we ended up only putting $15 million in ourselves. So it was, but it was the city of Houston does all their stadiums the same way. The city will grant people like tax credits. They'll give them the land. They try to do a 50-50 partnership in every stadium in Houston, whether it's NRG Stadium for football, Minute Maid for baseball, or now it's called Shell. It was the BBVA soccer stadium. All the same way. They're 50-50 partnerships. And so in our case, the city gave us the 42 acres of land. They put up $3 million for parking and utilities, and we put in the rest. We only had to match $5 million of improvements, but we ended up putting $15 million in and of improvements. And basically, the city owns the stadium. You turn around, you give the stadium back to the city, but you have the operating rights for as long as you want, 40 years operating rights. So most of the stadiums in Houston have done the same way.
Interesting. So what happens in that 41st year?
Well, we have 2 10-year extensions. I'm not going to worry about it personally. I don't think I'm going to be here. So
that's what they said about the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, you get extensions,
All right. The extensions are important here. I'm gonna have to see these on paper. All right. Yeah. So anyway, in all seriousness, you guys went from a franchise that was struggling, playing in an empty stadium, to a team that was favored to win the championship. How worried were you in those years of the empty stadium?
Very. And, even today we're very worried, right? Because inflation, costs have skyrocketed and, it's tough and I'm going to call rugby in America as a marginal sport at this point, right?
Sure.
I mean, a lot of our original owners had, grand visions of, we're going to be like MLS, right? MLS got their TV contract in their 7th year. Oh, we just finished our 7th year. We haven't got a TV contract yet, right? Soccer in the U.S. has millions of kids playing, tens of millions of kids playing soccer, and rugby probably has 1 million. So we're, I was never visions of grandeur. I was said if our franchises can be similar to a successful minor league baseball franchise to start with, I said, I think that would be a success. And I still believe that until, maybe by 2031, when the World Cup's here, maybe, if rugby grows in the U.S. over the next 5 to 10 years, like World Rugby wants it to, and we want it to, then maybe we get closer to MLS.
Well, you committed to the runway. They talk about that runway of losing money, but you've got committed to it because you built the stadium.
The question is how long, right? How long do you do it, right? How long, Like most professional leagues fail. You can just go back to 2 years ago. You had two football, right? XFL and whatever. They fail all the time. They probably had 10 different versions of professional football try to start in the last 10 years. And it's a tough go, right? It's a real tough go. And don't forget, we've gone through COVID as a group. We've gone through COVID. We've gone through, right now we're in the transitioning of, the regional sports networks and cutting cable versus streaming.
Sure.
Right. And all that is in flux. And every time I get nervous about it and say, forget it, it's never going to happen. We're never going to get something. Sure enough, the NFL, the NBA signed some multi-billion-dollar contract with Amazon or Hulu,
right?
Or Apple, and their pay scales are off the charts, right?
Is that the carrot? Is that the carrot on the end of the stick in front of you guys? The kind of like the potential of something like that happening with?
Yeah, I think Dean House, the original commissioner, right? Real good sports guy. He basically said the formula for a professional league is basically 1/3 ticket sales, 1/3 sponsorship sales, and 1/3 TV revenue. And I would say that's pretty apropos for most sports leagues. And then you throw unions in, you throw people in. The split between the owners and the players is 50-50 roughly. Sometimes it's 52-40, whatever.
Right.
But if you think about it, there's a reason why people are getting paid $50 million to play football or basketball now. It's because the TV contracts are so large.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. And when we come back, I want to talk about the turnaround of the franchise after this.
Perfect.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we're back with Mr. Marty Power of the Houston SaberCats. Marty, the turnaround of your franchise, it wasn't overnight, but it was pretty fast. And you didn't bring in some expensive star overseas player. You brought in a star coach, Heineke Meyer, who had coached the Springboks in the 2015 World Cup, knows his stuff, helped get the team to a higher pinnacle. But you had the disappointing playoffs against Dallas. Was the departure of Heineke dependent upon winning the championship, or was it just that it was a time to go?
Basically, our deal with Heineke was, we're going to give you a 3-year contract to build the team, right? We're going to pay you, there's no salary cap on coaching. So we paid, we paid Heineke certainly what he was worth, maybe not even what he was worth on an international basis, but we paid him a lot of money compared to our previous coaches. And we basically built a good team, and, through his culture. And let's face it, the South African model works, right? They've won 2 consecutive World Cups. I mean, I'm not a biggest fan of the style, right? The kick and chase and put pressure on the other team and knock the crap out of them is great. It wins games, but it's not the most exciting for an American fan, so to speak. So to me, we were very successful. Heineke, we immediately, I think we were at 9-7 the first year, 10-6 last year, the year before last. And this past year we were 14-2. And, Heineke's a smart guy. He understands rugby. He understands talent. He built a good squad. Unfortunately, and, I'm not going to, make excuses other than, we had the 2 weeks international window, which kind of took us out of our rhythm. We had a hurricane here in Houston. We had practice issues.
You got the heat.
We had 100-degree heat, post the hurricane. We looked disheveled in our playoff game against Dallas. We didn't look like the same team. But to be fair, Dallas was a hard team to beat. I mean, they were, scrappy. We beat them twice in the regular season, but on the last plays of the game, they're a good team.
Yeah.
Came
together.
Yeah, and they did. So, but realistically, I'm not trying to make excuses, but we didn't play up to par on that last game. They beat us, but no, when we got to Heineke, we had signed a 3-year contract, and his contract was to build the team, which he did. and he successfully built the team. But we have a head coach, we have a nucleus of players that we continue to need a director of rugby that's going to, resurrect and build the team.
All right, Marty, we're running out of time, but I got 3 bullet points here that are more league wide. Number 1, USA Rugby relationship with the league. What's your view and the Houston view on the USA Rugby relationship?
I think it's gotten much better in the last few years, and it'll get better now that Bill's over there as the new head.
Bill Gorin, former
Bill
deputy
Gorin,
commissioner.
Bill Gorin, former deputy commission. That'll help. World Rugby, I was up at the DC game, and we had World Rugby had a meeting with all the potential cities for the host the World Cup, and I think Gilpin, I think is the guy's name. Listen
Alan
to him.
Gilpin. Yep.
Yeah, they're all in on the U.S. They really are. They realize the U.S. Sports market is the one they have to go after. They claim they're going to spend a ton of money. I want to see it, and seeing is believing.
They started with the anthem.
Yeah, the seeing is believing. But we as a league are footing the bill for the anthem as well. By the way.
Right.
Right. That's a joint project. That's a joint project.
Okay.
That's a joint project. So, and look I support the relationship with that. It has to happen because rugby, it's not like I said, it's not like soccer or basketball, right? There's a zillion kids that play basketball, so the NBA doesn't have to worry about the U.S. Basketball Federation.
Right.
But in rugby, the governing body is USA Rugby, and we have to have a relationship. I think the best thing the relationship there has to be on pathway for kids to play, has to be on referee pathways because we need more referees. That's where the mix has to come in. They should have zero authority over our operating and our rules. Tim Falcon from New Orleans, old American football player, says we should call a try a touchdown in our league. He says, why can't we just call a try a touchdown? We get more people understand the game better. So stuff like that, I don't think USA Rugby should have any say over.
Tim, I'm coming for you, Tim. I'm coming for you, Tim.
So
what the?
Yeah, but that's I think there's a very easy pathways on everything with the USA Rugby and MLR. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have advisories on each board. They're supposed to have an advisory on our board and vice versa, so we can be interlinked and we can be communicative. If we're not, if we don't have that connection, there's always going to be issues, right? Because people just have opinions and complain and blah, 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 blah. But I think we're okay.
Wait, Marty, we got to pause again for another break because we're going long. We'll be right back. Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? And we're back. Marty, let's talk refereeing.
Referee should be heard, not seen, so to speak. There's way too much peacocking in our referees. They need to be in better shape so that they don't slow the game down for their own purposes. Fair. It's a fast game. I wish they would use their touch judges more than they
assistant referees.
The assistant referees, right? Sorry,
we don't want to keep it so. Come on. We're
Yeah, sorry, ARs. Yeah. I wish they use their ARs more than they use the TMO. How about that?
All right. Well, they're all deaf, dumb, and blind. We all know that to begin with, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And the referees in the stands will tell you that. But specifically, you had an issue in the championship.
If the Super Bowl stopped for 2 or 3 minutes with an injury on the field, they would break the commercial because their commercials are worth $5 to $10 million a piece, right?
Sure.
We broke for a minor injury, because the guy continued to play in the game, he never came off the field. For a minor injury, we stopped the game for over 2 minutes. And I was apoplectic in the sidelines going like, what are we doing? And, you know, when we're on Fox competing against the Olympics and we stumble upon hundreds of people that are just flipping the channel to come watch rugby, right? We lose those fans the minute there's discombobulation on the field. And that should have been, you know, break the commercial. Right. Or it should have been haul the guy off, right?
Rep says, hey, we got to break with this. Let's break for 30 or 60 or
right.
Or you know.
Yep. You know, we can't lose fans like that. You know, there's no telling how many fans turned the channel when they turned it on and just saw people milling around on the field.
The entertainment side of it. There's this thing I'm hearing about called rum. What can you tell me about this? We
have copied the MLS operating agreements to the extent, and they have a separate marketing company. So when they brought Beckham into LA, that wasn't LA that brought Beckham in. That was their Soccer United Marketing. They call it SUM. So we called ours Rugby United Marketing. So the marketing company is basically the generator of revenue for the league, theoretically. The local franchises will generate their sponsorship and their ticket sales locally. But from a marketing and sponsorship standpoint, rum will be the driving revenues earned by the league. You know, we've hired several groups, you know, for media, for marketing that are top tier. Say our average attendance is 3,000 a game. You know, that has to grow. We have to grow locally. We have to fill our stands locally and push to the next level of stadiums, which are 5,000 to 10,000 seat stadiums.
And what's that magic number of breaking even, like 7K fans in a stadium?
7K fans and appropriate sponsorship to that, and some TV contract, right? We spend a ton of money on production. We produce every game in the MLR, over 100 games a year, including playoffs. And that budget is expensive. I'm just going to tell you that budget's $4 million. So we're investing $4 million in branding and, you know, rugby long term. And, you know, I can tell you, we're not getting $4 million of sponsorship for that stuff. So it's, you know, it's a stretch, right? It's difficult. But one more issue that we have to deal with in the league. It's a hurdle. Yeah. And it's not a small hurdle. And, you know, the players, you know, God bless the players. I mean, I want to pay them more money too, right? But there's only, you know, I wish the salary cap was $2 million instead of, you know, what it is. Because I feel for them. I understand inflation is difficult to live. But we are, as I said, you know, a minor league baseball equivalent is what we are.
How many teams are in the league next year, and how many teams are in the league 5 years from now?
Next year, I think there'll be 12. 5 years from now, 16. Honestly, I could care less if we have a foreign limit on our players. To me, the supply of players is large worldwide. If the league gets better, the U.S. team will get better.
Mr. Marty Power, I appreciate your time. And on that note, we are out of time. I want to thank Mr. Marty Power of the Houston SaberCats, John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. I want to wish Bryan Ray and his family well. Our thoughts are with you, Bryan. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Tell your friends about us. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. It won't kill you. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.